Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene Flash Update. Today's date, May 28, 2025. Time in Texas about 4 p.m. Thanks for hitting the like button. That helps my channel to grow. So we have a few things percolating in the U.S. and in the world. Some of my sources I'll use are Daily Mail, BREITBART, Hal Turner, New York Prepper, Plus. German Merz, the Chancellor of Germany, a bauble doll coming. So we'll see. Russia is in a state of continuity of government. Its government officials are in their bunkers, where they have been since Saturday night. The U.S. military this afternoon is kicking it up a notch with the codes they're transmitting on the U.S. military nuclear radio channel, going up to SkyMaster. And President Trump makes an offer to Canada it'll be hard for them to turn down, to become number 51. So let's begin. So I've been bringing out several things in the past month about the downturn of viewers for mainstream media. And some new information is coming out about MSNBC, a division of the NBC network, that in May, MSNBC continued to lose viewers. In the month of May, that's May 1, through about the middle of May, when the measurement was made, MSNBC lost 29% total viewers, 40% in prime time. And through May 12, they were averaging 532,000 total views. In other words, in any hour, there were 532,000 Americans watching MSNBC, and this was across multiple platforms, including TV, cable, and digital. So, yeah. We see Americans turning away from mainstream media. And we have this, and I believe, and so it begins. The Health and Human Services Secretary for President Trump, RFK Jr., announced that the CDC is changing their list of recommended shots and dropping a recommendation for the C-19 shot for healthy children and pregnant women. And now we have this. President Trump, we know, recently welcomed white South African refugees. They were farmers who were being put out of South Africa by the predominantly black population there, and a situation of reverse apartheid we see taking place in South Africa, blacks against whites. And also President Trump on May 12 had the president of South Africa in the White House, Ramaphosa, and President Trump in a televised presser addressed this issue with President Ramaphosa, who denied that there was any type of apartheid going on in South Africa. And during the live presser, President Trump showed a video of something like 50,000 black South Africans in a stadium chanting and praising the speaker, who was talking about getting rid, one way or another, of the white South Africans and taking their land without compensation. Well, This correlates to President Trump's recently giving 59 white South Africans refuge status in the U.S., and the Episcopal Church refused, even though it's a government-funded refugee relocation program through various churches, the Episcopal Church refused to help the white South Africans relocate. So the Baptist it's a Baptist refugee group in Raleigh, North Carolina, picked up the ball and are doing their Christian duty. So that's going on. And now we have this. President Trump to Harvard. The U.S. government will cut money to Harvard that it was using to provide visas to international students. So that money is going away from the federal government. Now, my thinking is possibly Harvard could lose some international money as well, possibly from the CCP for letting Chinese students into Harvard. At least that's how I see things, and I believe that's how President Trump sees things too. The many colleges were using federal money to bring in international students, whether they were complicit or not with the plan that's come out of the CCP to send Chinese students to universities in the U.S. where they were getting educated and living in America and also acting as spies. So that's going on. And now we have this. It appears that the world is heating up and drawing closer to something like a world war. So we have what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. And so we've had in the past few days, this has been really going on since last Friday. Today's Wednesday. Back and forth between Ukraine and Russia, heavy hits. I believe Ukraine over several days sent in 1,000 drones and missiles into Russia, and then Russia reciprocated. And now we have this from Hal Turner. So Ukraine hits Russia with 300 drones. I believe that happened in the last 24 hours. The Russian defense says that between May 27, yesterday, 7 a.m. yesterday, May 27 at 9 p.m. at night through 7 a.m. this morning, 5:28. That Russia took down 296 drones launched from Ukraine into Russia. Now we have this going on with the German Chancellor Merz. Germany will give loan $6 billion to Ukraine, and this was announced today or late yesterday in a joint presser of German Chancellor Merz and Zelensky. And the $6 billion is to pay for weapons. Many are speculating the $6 billion loan to Ukraine is to cover the cost of the Taurus missiles that Germany has already pre-positioned inside Ukraine that are also nuclear capable. When this was determined by Russian intel Saturday night, that prompted the Russian government to go to their bunkers and open up their COG plan books, continuity of government. Now, Merz had announced within about the last 48 hours that there would be no restrictions on the use of any weapons launched by Ukraine into Russia, and that included missiles put in Ukraine by Germany, the UK, Europe, and the US. However, the US, the UK, and Europe have not confirmed that statement by WERX. So it's unknown if this is accurate. We do have Germany for sure saying there are no limits on their use of Taurus missiles. Now, these Taurus missiles that are also nuclear capable have to be programmed. So the Taurus has its own operating software on it, but it has to be programmed by German technicians. Now, the Taurus cannot be launched from land. It must be launched from a plane. Currently in Ukraine, the F-16s will not carry the Taurus missiles and other planes inside Ukraine. So either the Taurus missiles or the existing planes inside Ukraine have to be modified, and they can only be modified to carry the Taurus missiles by German technicians. This means the German technicians have to also be inside Ukraine. Now, the targeting for the Taurus missiles, according to the intel from Hal Turner, will be selected by NATO from Brussels and then communicated to the German technicians inside Ukraine and then input into the Taurus missiles. And now we have this. Germany also has declared certain areas inside Ukraine and Russia as being terrorist organizations. So we have inside Ukraine, we have 4 areas who voted to join Russia in 2022. Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson. Germany is now labeling Luhansk and Donetsk as being terrorist areas. And they are doing so retroactively, although provided no date for the retroactive labeling. And these are simply civilians who were part of Ukraine, Russian speakers. And we know in 2014, the U.S. State Department overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine, led by Victoria Nuland, and then had been putting billions into Ukraine to train Ukraine's military. And in 2022, and beginning in 2014, the Ukraine military began attacking civilians inside Luhansk and Donetsk, killing from 2014 to about 2021, late in 2021, 7 years. They killed about 14,000 civilians. Now, during this period, the civilians organized themselves in militias to try and defend themselves against the Ukraine NATO-trained and backed military. This was to fulfill a deep state objective of killing all of the Slavic bloodline inside Ukraine, and that's all the population inside Ukraine, both those who spoke Russian and those who spoke Ukraine. So that's a deep state objective. A deep state objective is also to destroy Germany, German industrialization, and German economy, and the German government. So we see the German Chancellor Merz being put in place, apparently, as the designated hitter for the deep state in Germany. So Germany designates these two areas, Luhansk and Donetsk, these civilians, as terrorists. And then they went further. There were some humane groups inside Germany who were assisting with donations from individuals and from other nations, like food and water and medicine, to these two areas, Luhansk and Donetsk. It was an internationally recognized humane aid group. Germany arrested the people in this group and charged them as being terrorists. So we see President Trump has stated that President Putin has lost his mind. I think next President Trump needs to say that German Chancellor Merz has also lost his mind. And now we have this, that, oh yeah, and Zelensky is begging for money, money, money. And did you know that the U.S. government is currently continuing to fund the Antichrist and anti-Trump Zelensky-led group inside Ukraine? We can no longer call that a functioning government, because Zelensky, for sure, and many other people claiming to be part of the government have long since passed their time of election. But Zelensky, like a dictator, no more elections. I'm just in power forever. And yet begs the U.S., we need billions. We need $30 billion. President Trump, if you continue to fund and arm and provide intel to Zelensky in Ukraine, you come against the American people. So, let that be said. So, Zelensky, I need $30 billion. And most likely Zelensky is calling the shots with a green screen in his $34 million mansion in Miami, Florida. And now we have this. So, German Chancellor Metz, yes, we're gonna okay the use of those Taurus missiles, and somehow they're either gonna modify the missiles or modify the planes. I submit this. Most likely those Taurus missiles that were brought in by the UK and French intel groups snuck into Ukraine have already been modified, and they've already been programmed with the targets inside Russia, dictated by the deep state controlled NATO in Brussels. So that's going on. So Germany says, yeah, and the first target's going to be the Kerch Bridge between Crimea and Russia. So yeah, that's going on. We see the world turning up the heat here. And so last night, after these statements by German Chancellor Merz, all on every channel in Russia, on their TV channels, what was being spoken? What was being spoken was a possible, was a suggestion by TV, and it's my personal opinion, this had to have come from the Russian government and the Russian military for Russia to make a preemptive strike on Germany to hit the manufacturing facility of the Taurus missiles, and also to burn after that Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. Apparently, the Russian people are really on fire. And also, Russian social media came out, and this is an official site platform, saying that the German Chancellor Merz will most likely wind up in a Fabo store. My thought is, as a bobblehead doll. Yeah, because we see he's really agreeing with his deep state masters. We have this from Real Raw News. Russia has been capturing locations inside Ukraine ran by a trafficking cartel made up of Ukrainians, French, German, and Albanians to kidnap primarily Russian children, although some American children were kidnapped from Poland. That was last month. The Russian special forces went into Ukraine and rescued them, and this was verified by President Trump, and I've put that out in a previous video. Now, we have more information coming out from the Russian FSB agent Andrei Zakharov that more rescues have been made by Russian special forces inside Ukraine, most likely of underground tunnels where these children who were kidnapped in Russia and taken to the tunnels under Ukraine to then be trafficked. They rescued 51 children. So yeah. And before they hit the areas where they went in to rescue the children, they were underground. So on Friday, in this area that was near Sumy, Friday, Russia dropped leaflets that this area would be hit. And on Sunday, they bombed the area. And then special forces went in and rescued the Russian children. And now we have this, yeah, the same. We have more coming. Let's recall also another thing that's going on in the U.S. by President Trump, who is a brilliant strategist. This refers back to the 2020 presidential election. The majority of American citizens believe was stolen. It's coming out from various sources that the U.S. military have obtained servers used in the 2020 presidential election to manipulate the vote. And these servers were located in Frankfurt, Germany, and were tied to other servers that have also been obtained in Israel, Ukraine, and China, and have determined that the money to pay for the use of these machines and operators and so on to bring about a coup in the United States of America in 2020, the money to pay for it came from the UN, the WEF, the CFR, and other globalist organizations. I say again, President Trump, I believe the U.S. should withdraw from all globalist organizations, the UN, the WEF, the CFR, and so on. And now we have this, that with the U.S. military and other cooperating militaries around the world obtaining these servers and also picking up witnesses that are in protective custody, that this has brought about an economic change globally affecting Rothschild banks, U.S. hedge funds, crypto, and has affected the New York Stock Exchange, putting it in the red area. So that's going on. Now, so I presented all this information that's been going on from the past 5 to 7 days, and especially over the weekend, and that we have Russia government in their bunkers. And we have Germany possibly already loading those Taurus missiles with nukes. So late this afternoon, we have New York Prepper bringing out that the U.S. military nuclear codes on the U.S. Radio channel, you can hear the codes being spoken. You don't know what they mean. But there are several levels of importance of the codes. And one of the top levels is Sky Master. And beginning in the last hour, we've had over 25 Sky Master codes going out to our planes in the U.S. and around the world. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and other militaries who are fighting on the side of good and for world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.